2018 sees the start of the Kitbliss World Cup of World Cup kits, a competition that aims to establish the greatest football kit of recent times as seen in the FIFA World Cup itself. And how will it do that? Well, first there will be a draw where 24 kits will be placed into 6 groups, 4 kits in each, and then through a series of daily online polls the kits will go head to head in a series of matches. Whichever kits win their matches by receiving the majority of your votes will get 3 points and the losing kits get none. At the end of the first round we work out which kits go through to the knockout stages, and then the whole process is repeated until we find out which kit is the winner of the World Cup of World Cup kits. But which kits will be featured in this loose concept masquerading as entertainment, I hear you cry? Well, that's what this video is here to tell you. I've picked 2 kits that I think are particularly distinctive from each of the last 12 World Cups, plus 2 from the 2018 tournament. That gives us 24 kits, and here are the ones I've chosen. The 1974 World Cup was the first to feature proper Adidas football kits. You know, 3 stripes on the sleeves, shirts, socks and so on. Many teams sported that distinctive look, including Yugoslavia, the Netherlands and Sweden, but without question the team that stood above them all was Zaire. Worn in just one game against Scotland, Zaire's home kit featured a pale yellow shirt with red and green trim, green shorts and yellow socks, but it was that shirt which caught the eye with its unique circular leopards logo in the middle. Mind you, that wasn't the only striking element about this design. Although many national teams were starting to wear the Adidas 3-stripe trim on their kit back in 1974, very few wore it in a 3-colour palette. Zaire had red and green stripes to complement the yellow of their shirt, while others had to make do with their Adidas stripes all in one colour, i.e. white, as a contrast to the main colour of their shirt. Zaire looked great in their colourful Adidas stripes, but just as a leopard wouldn't be seen without its spots, Zaire's kit wasn't imaginable without that leopard logo on the shirt. Stripes and hoops are things you'll rarely see on a national team shirt, so it's not surprising we all get a bit animated when even a single stripe appears. Thankfully, Italy were on hand to provide just such a piece of rare flair with this classic away kit from the 1974 World Cup. All white save for some blue sock turnovers, the shirt was adorned with a bold yet understated horizontal blue band just below that wonderful Italian shield badge. Elegant and delightfully executed, this is a design that the Italian team return to on an occasional basis, and quite rightly so. For a country so often associated with fashion, this kit does nothing to diminish that particular stereotype. This next kit I picked not because it was worn by the eventual champions of the 1978 World Cup, but because it's another example of simplicity working at its best. Many of Argentina's kits have seen their legendary blue and white stripes tinkered with, as if to show a willingness to break free from such rich tradition. But in 1978, Adidas got it exactly right by putting their 3-stripe motif on the shorts and socks and doing very little else. The shade of blue was just right, the long sleeves accentuated those fabulous stripes, and the multi-line number font, never more fashionable than it was back then, added the finishing touch to one of Argentina's greatest kits. Remember what I said earlier about stripes on kits? Yeah, that. And look here, a double stripe. But don't worry, I'm not going to put every kit featuring a stripe on this list. This one's a bit special. To complement Mexico's green and white home strip in 1978, they wore this, a white shirt with a conjoined green and red band running down the middle from top to bottom. Made by Levi's, or more correctly, made by a third party under the Levi's name, it presented the 3 colours of the Mexican tricolour in fabulous harmony. The cuffs and collar used red and green bands to reinforce the colour scheme, the shorts were red, and there was even room for the red Levi's logo, planted discreetly with the specific aim of confusing football historians a great many decades hence. Blue denim this wasn't, but it was an early example of how to make a contrasting away kit that was interesting and eye-catching in equal measure. To 1982 now, and what other kit springs to mind first, if not England's Admiral home kit, worn by Robson, Wilkins, Coppell et al. It's become something of a retro classic now, and it's a design that sure as hell wouldn't get made for England today, but it breathed life into England's appearance on the pitch after years of distinctly old-fashioned kit designs during the 1970s. With red and blue horizontal panels across the upper chest and similarly coloured piping around the neck and cuffs, the shirt has a great early 80s look to it, but that brighter shade of blue continued to upset the purists who yearned for the navy blue of yesteryear. They'd have to wait a couple more years for that. Meantime, England's '82 World Cup kit glowed in the Spanish sunshine and offered an unconventional look that fans remember fondly to this day. Well, what do you know? You wait 34 years for one Admiral kit, and then two turn up at once. Yes, the 1982 World Cup saw two countries wearing Admiral, the other one being Belgium. In their case, it was a return to the classic 70s tramline design that gave them such a fine presence on the pitch. Updated and refined for the 1980s, Admiral gave a last hurrah for their most iconic template by redefining it in yellow, edged with black, and featuring black Admiral logos running throughout. Those tramlines continued in the same fashion down onto the standard red home shorts, but I prefer the variation white shorts Belgium wore against Argentina for a bit of extra interest. As for the socks, they were red with a yellow band across the top that also featured black Admiral logos. Throw in a multi-trim cutaway V-neck and you have a World Cup classic that's all too often overlooked. Scotland's Umbro home kit for the 1986 World Cup may be a little divisive, but I'm convinced it's worthy of inclusion because of its shorts, and there aren't many kits you can say that about. Why so? Well, because they featured a thick horizontal stripe in the same shade of navy blue as the shirt. Does it look out of place? Possibly, but you must admit it shows the sort of innovation we kit enthusiasts desire on a part of the kit that's often dismissed as insignificant by all too many designers. Thick horizontal stripes also appeared on the shadow pattern of the shirt, which itself was very smart thanks to a round wrap-over collar and some white piping near the shoulders. And no Scotland kit would be complete without its badge, and back in the mid-80s, Scotland still had its circular version, which, one has to admit, looked terrific, placed on the blue band of the shorts along with the Umbro logo. The plain red socks also get a big tick from me to round off a fine outfit whose strength is its understated style. The subtleties of that Scotland kit are in stark contrast to this glorious hodgepodge of just about every kit design element known to mankind. Of course, it's Hummel's Denmark home kit which lit up the 1986 World Cup like a firework made of equal parts confetti, gunpowder and industrial strength LSD. All Denmark needed was a traditional red shirt, white shorts and red socks. What they got was a laundry list of things they didn't need. A halved two-tone shirt, logo taping, a mass of thin stripes, alternating in colour, piping in a questionable third colour across the shoulders, a reverse wrap-over collar, stripy sock turnovers, oh, and a stripe that looked like a belt across the top of the shorts. Put that lot in a single kit and it'd look a right mess, eh? No, wrong. Quite the opposite, in fact. It somehow created the most quintessentially stylish and captivating kit design anyone had ever seen up to that point, one could argue. It even looked good in a predominantly white version on the away kit. In fact, this design looked great in a wide range of colours as worn by various teams over the following couple of years. But this red version, what's not to like about it? Magnificent. But just when the Danes were starting to feel all superior in a kit design sort of way, along came another that pushed it somewhat into the background. Seen by a global audience during the 1990 World Cup, West Germany's home kit was, at the time at least, unique. Essentially a white shirt with black Adidas trim along the shoulders and a black DFB badge, the eye is drawn immediately to the abstract angular West Germany flag, stretched and twisted from one sleeve to the other, like Pablo Picasso signed a contract with Nintendo, designed a scarf, and paid for Adidas to turn it into a shirt. The sloping rises and falls of those black, red and yellow stripes seems random, and probably is, but that's what makes it so interesting to look at. There are also diamond-shaped gaps which seem irrelevant or redundant, and yet they too break up the whole motif to stop it looking overbearingly bold. Even the position of the badge and the Adidas logo is just right. I mean, what else is there to say about it? The shorts are plain black, save for the usual accoutrements, and the socks are standard Adidas fare for the time. But the star of the show is that shirt, and there haven't been many more creatively executed ones before or since. Scotland's away kit from the same tournament was only worn once in a match against Costa Rica, but that doesn't diminish its class in my view. It's quite simply one of the best away kits Scotland have ever had, despite the controversial similarities to the home kit of their arch-rivals England. Scotland have worn white before as an away kit colour, as was seen during the 1974 World Cup, but here Umbro decided to invert the home kit by having navy blue shorts, to say nothing of navy blue socks as well. But in a nice continuation from the away kit that was never worn during the 1986 World Cup, Umbro brought back yellow as a third colour, most notably employed in those lovely horizontal stripes on the shirt. But as is often the case with great kit designs, the devil was in the detail, and here Umbro chopped out one of those horizontal stripes to make way for their logo and the new Scotland badge, and then coloured the two stripes either side of it navy blue. A nice touch, and again it made sure that the design didn't follow too predictable a path. Definitely a love it or hate it kit for Scotland fans and neutrals alike, but you can put me in the former grouping without any hesitation. I've already used the word unique, but this one really is. Just stop and think for a moment. How many other teams have worn this template? Answer? None, because this isn't a template in any way, shape or form. It was part of a one-off pairing created by Adidas for the US national team on the monumental occasion of America hosting the FIFA World Cup in 1994. Quite an honour for the US men's national team, and the kits they wore were absolutely exceptional. This one, which I'm treating as the home kit, although no one seems absolutely sure, is stunning in its appearance. The shirt is a wash with a flecked denim-style blue, and complemented by a smart, simple, white and dark red wrap-over collar and cuffs. But this is America, for Pete's sake. Where's the razzmatazz and Hollywood glamour? Well, it's provided in the form of those white stars from the American flag, differing in size and skewed diagonally across one half of the shirt in a manner reminiscent of the Beatles on the front cover of the Rubber Soul album. Well, you know what I mean. Somewhat atypically, the blue shirts were joined by a pair of red shorts and black socks, a combination which you wouldn't necessarily expect to work well, and yet somehow it does. A really extraordinary kit design, and one that looked the part during the 1994 World Cup. During the same tournament, another unique, oh there I go again, kit was worn by Nigeria. It was their away kit, and to my 22-year-old self, it was every bit as modern looking as the USA kit we just saw, albeit in a different way. It was all white and featured a mass repeating pattern made up of what I can only describe as a traditional ethnic African motif, perhaps even specifically Nigerian, I'm not quite sure. All I know is that it made the kit look wonderfully African in a way that few kits have done since. Extra detail was provided by the trail of green triangles seen along the modest collar and cuffs, plus there was some green edging along the side of the shorts too. This being the Adidas equipment era, there was no Adidas trefoil and not even the triangular version of the Adidas logo which we came to be familiar with in the years that followed. Instead, as seen on the USA kits seen previously, we just get the Adidas wordmark, which, if I'm honest, is a bit lost among all those African motifs, but it stands out better than the usual Adidas logo alternatives. 3 green hoops on the socks complete this lovely Nigeria kit, and though it was worn with green shorts against Bulgaria in 1994, this all-white version worn against Greece looks even better. Spoiler alert, this collection of 24 kits only contains one for Brazil, and this is it. Now, I know some of you will wonder why that's the case, but I'm including Brazil's 1998 home kit because it's probably the best they've worn in recent times. The trouble is, they always end up with a kit that's too boring or just plain wrong somehow. Remember that 2002 home kit with the pointy panels? Yeah, there you go. No, this one was smart, inoffensive and quite stylish in a non-shouty kind of way. The main reason for that is those stripes that run along the shoulders and sleeves. Coupled with the green round neck and cuffs, it looks like a modern reworking of an old kit, something plucked from Brazil's past, given a bit of spit and polish. The shorts were similarly respectable, plain blue with white edging, and the white socks were given a little extra pep by virtue of a blue horizontal band featuring a white Nike logo. True, it's not the most exciting kit you'll ever see, but as you'll find out from some of the kits coming up, kit designs don't always need to shout, "Look at me," to look dignified and gain respect from the fans, and this one proved the point effortlessly. Croatia's World Cup debut in 1998 was marked with this dynamic design, created by Italian sportswear firm Lotto. Charged with the task of integrating Croatia's historic red and white checkerboard onto the shirt, as seen on its coat of arms, Lotto took the ingenious approach of making it look like a flag draped across one shoulder and down towards the shorts. Closer inspection of the design shows that the red squares are given a grey drop shadow, which adds a slight three-dimensional appearance. Further down you can also see that the shorts have a pleat below the red and blue piping, giving football fans a tantalising foretaste of what it would look like when players wore base layers under their shorts a decade or more later. Elsewhere there's just a little bit of the usual striped decoration on the collar and cuffs in red and blue, plus a few blue Lotto logos dotted here and there. All in all, a predominantly white kit illuminated delightfully with that Šahovična. That's Croatian for chessboard. Oh, there's a story behind Cameroon's 2002 World Cup home kit all right, but you've probably heard it before, so I'll keep this brief. In early 2002, Cameroon took part in that year's African Cup of Nations in Mali and did really rather well, which is to say they actually went on to win it. In the process of doing so, they wore a Puma kit which broke all the rules. Actually, it didn't break any rules at the time, but when Cameroon told FIFA it wanted to wear the same kit during the World Cup later on in the year, they were told that one particular regulation had been breached. The problem? Puma had made Cameroon shirts deliberately with no sleeves. Essentially, they were green vests with yellow and red trim. Innovative, groundbreaking, and as it turned out, totally illegal. So, before the World Cup in Korea and Japan got started, Puma went back to the drawing board and stitched in some black sleeves, a move which lost the support of fans wanting to see some true invention in their team's kit, but needs must and all that. In the process of making the kit completely legal, Puma added in a slightly random element with those black sleeves because black hadn't really been featured in Cameroon's home kit before. Yet through necessity, they ended up with a darker edge to their usual vibrant identity, which didn't look completely out of place. Looking at the shirt, there was some subtle green stitching across the shoulders and down the sides. There was yellow and red trim, plus a number font which can most generously be described as Comic Sans with an O level. Also notable are the use of two Cameroon logos on the shirt, one the traditional shield of the Cameroon Football Federation, the other a yellow lion's head offering a visual shorthand for the team's nickname. Apart from that, the Puma wordmark appeared on the socks in red, but that was it, save for a little extra trim in places. An odd but rather engaging kit, and by no means the only controversial one Cameroon wore during that decade. By 2002, the Italian national team were well into a kit deal that saw them wearing Kappa outfits, and by the time of that year's World Cup, the distinctive feature of those kits was a switch to a lighter tone of blue. As in Euro 2000, Kappa wore shirts that hark back to the earliest playing days of the Italian team, and very fetching they looked too. But just as eye-catching as the shade of blue was the distinct lack of any flashes or motifs in a contrasting colour. Instead, these Kappa shirts were interesting because of the fit of the shirt, and the use of stitching as a feature in its own right. Not that it was all that visible from a distance. It too was blue in colour. No, this shirt looked classy in a less is more sort of way. There was a stylised overlaid collar, the shield badge was in its usual place, and the Kappa logo was cheekily included not just once, but twice, and on both sleeves, not to mention on both socks. Aside from that, it just remains to highlight the number font, which was absolutely perfect in its sans serif way. Stylish but not showy, as was the rest of the kit, which was something of a modern-day classic for Italy, if you want my opinion. Taking a similar approach, albeit executed in a different way, was the Nike kit produced for the Dutch team in the 2006 World Cup. Once again, we see a kit that looked fabulous simply because of how it seemed to fit the players wearing it. It featured a proper winged collar, black detailing for the Nike logo and number font, which actually was slightly at odds with the white stripes on the sock turnovers, and a very decorous shield container for the restyled Dutch FA badge. If I'm not mistaken, and it's entirely possible that I am here, the shade of orange used on the kit was slightly brighter than has been seen before, but it's also worth mentioning the fact that this Dutch kit was completely orange. No black or white shorts, just orange, and the kit looked all the more impressive because of it. And what more could you ask for? This was a no-nonsense kit for a no-nonsense team, oozing with style and delightful in its cut and composition. Nice. Taking an altogether more radical stance was Lotto, not entirely out of character, as we saw earlier from the Croatia home kit in 1998. For the 2006 World Cup, they decked the Serbia and Montenegro team out in a home kit that looked like the football equivalent of the Sarlacc from Return of the Jedi. White pointy spikes narrow from the outer edges of the shirt the nearer they get to the centre of it, even incorporating one spike in the cutaway neckline, rather cleverly. The spikes also continue on the shorts pointing downwards from the waist in the opposite colouring to those on the shirt, blue on white this time. As for the Lotto logo, that makes its presence felt in a way that surpasses Kappa's from 2002, appearing as it does on the sleeves, the sides of the shorts, the socks, and in full in the centre of the shirt. Obviously Lotto knew how to bend FIFA's regulations in ways that Puma haven't yet even thought of. This template was rolled out to a number of teams around this time and in the years following, including the Ukraine, Real Zaragoza, Udinese, and even the mighty Swindon Town, but in the blue, white and red of Serbia and Montenegro, it's rarely been bettered. To the 2010 World Cup now, and a kit which is as likely to earn me a constant stream of verbal abuse as the wearing of a badge saying Donald Trump 4 more years. It's Umbro's England home kit, and it's white. Very white. In fact, it's just about the whitest England home kit ever worn in the modern era. And that seems to bother a lot of people, for reasons I'm not quite sure about. Sure, England have worn navy blue shorts for the greater part of the last 150 years, but since when were white shorts such a controversial part of the kit? Maybe it's the shirt that's so irksome. Devoid of a plethora of coloured bits and pieces on the sleeves or the chest, many fans labelled it just a t-shirt or a polo shirt, but that too was a lazy misnomer. The sheer elegance of this kit came from the same source as Nike's Netherlands kit in 2006, only more so. It was the effort that had been made to actually tailor the shirt to the body of the players, rather than simply cut out a shirt shape from a piece of fabric and consider that a job done. You can see how good the kit looks by studying photos of the players at the time. They looked really good, as if the kit they were wearing had an indefinable quality. And it did. That quality came from going beyond the realms of usual football kit design to make something that aimed to be so much classier than your average kit. To state the basic facts, the shirt had a white winged collar and placket, a slightly modified blue England badge, featuring a ribbon that contained the name of England's opponents for any given match, a simple red Umbro logo, and red shirt number in a Gill Sans style font. As for the shorts, they too had an England badge, but this time it was embroidered in white, just like the Umbro diamond logo on the other leg. The player's number was displayed in red once again, and that was about all, but to include anything else in this kit would be to gild the lily. This kit was 100% about style, subtlety, integrity and precision, and if you still think this kit is disappointing, type the words "modern tailoring Umbro" into YouTube and watch the video that's bound to come up at the top of the following screen. It'll show you exactly what I've been trying to explain for the last 2 minutes. A casual glance at the Portugal away kit for the 2010 World Cup might prompt a reaction of, "Wait a minute, haven't I seen that before?" Well, if so, it's entirely understandable because this kit looks not unlike the Mexico 1978 away kit we saw earlier. It's got a white shirt, red and green vertical bands down the middle, but after that it differs in a number of ways. Worn against the Ivory Coast and Spain, it has a plain white wrap-over collar, green round-ended trim on the sleeves, and some extra rather thin edging running parallel to those coloured stripes down the middle of the shirt. In this design the shorts are green, and the white socks feature the by now standard Nike logo band, also in green. The other details come from the Portuguese FA badge in the traditional places, some discreet white trim on the sides of the shorts, and a cutout to allow for the number font in the middle of the shirt. Put together, this was a classy away kit for Messrs Ronaldo and co, and showed a modern interpretation of the kit Mexico wore against Tunisia during the 1978 World Cup. If any country has stayed true to one particular colour on its away kit, it's France, and its use of white as a contrast to its usual blue on the home kit. Both colours have featured prominently on France's long list of away kits down the years, but when the French national team started wearing kit made by Nike in 2011, the shade of blue became darker than it had been during the Adidas years. So it was therefore that on France's away kit for the 2014 World Cup, the shirt was predominantly white and the shorts were a very dark blue. But though the shorts looked great with their simple styling, it was the shirt that had undoubted elan, as it incorporated a series of thin, pale, grey hoops. Those hoops had been seen on the previous France away kit, worn initially during the 2011-2012 season, but at that time they were navy blue in colour, not grey. This was a specific cue taken from the marinière, or Breton shirt, the classic uniform worn by French sailors as far back as the middle of the 19th century. In my opinion, though the navy blue hoops look good, they only looked really great once they were toned down for the 2014 away kit. For some reason they just looked a lot more dignified in a paler colour, but they were still noticeable all the same. The inclusion of a thin white round-necked collar and placket, plus a more three-dimensional embroidered badge, served to make this a really nice kit for the French team, a great example of how to refine a previous design and make it even better. And so to Argentina once again. By now, any number of different manufacturers had been given one of the great kit design challenges: how to add interest and quality to a traditional striped shirt. That task fell to Adidas in 2014, and their approach was to add some diagonal line shading to Argentina's blue stripes, which could be said to be a forerunner of the Adidas mode of the 2018 World Cup. As ever, subtlety was the watchword on occasions such as this, where vast hordes of fans can be outraged by a misplaced stroke of the designer's pen, but they pulled it off in my view. The blue stripes fade to a slightly lighter tone further down the shirt, but it's done so gradually as to be barely perceptible from some distance. Elsewhere on the kit, there's a tendency towards smartness and an avoidance of gimmickry. A nice black V-neck collar matches the cuffs of the shirt and the three-stripe Adidas trim throughout. There's a little blue edging along the legs of the shorts and two horizontal bands on the socks in two shades of blue. If there's anything remotely capable of upsetting the die-hard fans, it's the shape of the restyled AFA badge, but to be honest, even that's pushing it a bit. This kit design was coherent and harmonious in every respect, and showed that Argentina's famous stripes could still be presented in new and inventive ways. And finally to the 2018 World Cup, which will feature arguably the most talked about set of kits in the competition's history. The first of my chosen two belongs to Belgium, and as many of you will know, it harks back to their 1984 home kit designed by Adidas. Back then it featured an Argyle pattern of interlocked diamonds on a white horizontal band in the colours of the Belgian flag, black, red and yellow. 30 years on, the Argyle is back, but this time without the white band, and that's what makes it such a great design in my opinion. I always thought that the white band looked a little odd back in my early teens, and that slightly juvenile opinion was firmed up no end when Adidas did away with it for Belgium's home kit in 2018. It now looks a lot better than it did, and with the introduction of their current trend for line shading, it looks particularly swish. One thing that's not immediately apparent on first viewing is the absence of Adidas three-stripe trim, but if you look closer, you'll see it's still there. It's just running down the side of the shirt and shorts in a slightly darker shade of red to the rest of the kit. Other details are more visible in yellow, such as the Adidas logo, the number font, and the name of Belgium woven into the socks. But really, this kit is all about subtlety and refinement, right down to the simple rounded V neckline on the shirt. Real class, I hope you agree. And finally, the kit that everyone's been talking about at some point or another. It's Nigeria's home kit, designed by Nike, and yet another throwback to an overlooked design from previous decades. This one, however, is not subtle. Oh no. This one is brash, bold, and a statement of Nigeria's very identity as the Super Eagles of Africa. To begin with, Nike have chosen a shade of green that crops up from time to time in Nigeria's kit history and borders on the luminous rather than the meadow-like. Across the chest are columns of feathered chevrons in a repeated pattern that has a slight offset as it drops from left to right. This pattern is repeated on the sleeves, this time in black on a white background. Apart from the shirt, everything is calm and subdued. The shorts are plain white and the socks are plain green with a slightly lighter toned logo band around the middle. Logos and numbers are in black, as perhaps they should be, and that's all there is to say. Except that you have to be a certain type of team to wear a kit design that's so stunning in its appearance. England could never wear this template, for instance. The fans would never allow it, as it's not traditional enough. Nigeria can wear it, because their tradition, like that of many African nations, is to play exciting, open football with a go-ahead attitude that demands flair and individual brilliance. Sorry, I may have damned the England team there in a very subtle way, but come on, face facts. Well, there it is, my selection of 24 great World Cup kits, all worn from the 1974 tournament onwards, and they'll all feature in the draw, which you can see as live on the Kitbliss YouTube channel in early June 2018. Aside from that, make sure you follow Kitbliss on social media for further updates about the World Cup of World Cup kits, and remember that the Kitbliss website is also on hand 24 hours a day for those of you that like to be reminded of many other great football kits of the past. For now though, thanks for watching, and from me, Chris Only, it's goodbye to you all.